At this time, I'm going to ask Commissioner Ray Johnson if you will have our invocation and pledge to the flag.
Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting to help us make the best decision for the citizens of Greene County. Lord, I ask you to look over our employees, especially our law enforcement and EMS and fire personnel. Lord, be with our armed forces in the country. In your name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Fellow Commissioners, you have the proposed agenda for today's meeting. Is there any need for a change to the proposed agenda? Do we wish to pull F1 for further information before discussion?
Okay. Seeing no other changes to the agenda, Mr. Chairman, I move to approve today's agenda with the amendments made.
We need to pull F1 on.
Do we need to pull F1 is what I'm asking?
Yeah, F1, yeah. We'll approve that.
So we're going to remove F1. Okay. Any further needs on the agenda? Those in favor of approving the agenda with removal of F1 signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, the motion is carried. Let me back up. You made a motion to approve the agenda. Did you make the second?
Second.
Okay, get it up. I just want to make sure I got it. Okay, good deal.
Motion with the amendment.
We got the motion. Yeah, we got the motion and the second too. And we voted affirmatively. You have a consent agenda. Is there any need for any change to the consent agenda?
I want to request the meeting minutes be removed and voted second.
I have a request to have the meeting minutes removed and voted separately.
All right. Move to approve the consent agenda with the omission of the minutes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda with the omission of the regular meeting minutes of August the 21st. Any further discussion after that? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, the motion is carried. Now, the minutes for the consent agenda. Do you wish to discuss those?
I just saw an email of what's wrong with the meeting minutes.
Part of the
I've
stuff
already
left
sent out
out.
an email of what's wrong with the meeting minutes.
I would, I don't know, what I saw was included.
Well, first of all, my comment to remove it is in the discussion, it should be in the agenda section. And also there's very little comments about what was said, like what we're on the EMS, no comments are missing, her comments are missing.
We don't generally do verbatim minutes, we do general accounts.
But you still got it wrong because I made the motion to remove that thing in the agenda comments, not the discussion.
And that's in there.
So it needs to
I
be
believe
reversed.
it's in that section, sir, if you take a look.
Was that too loud there?
No.
No.
So the best thing to do is just go to meeting minutes.
Is that when you made the motion
In B.
and died from a lack of second?
Yes, in B, approval of agenda, Chairman Heath asked for any changes to the agenda. Commissioner Burris made a motion to remove F1. No one seconded the motion. So it died with no second. Is
Right.
that what you're...
Yes.
When I read your email, I thought what you had referenced was included. Do you see that?
I always said, the motion I made was putting the agenda comment.
Yes.
Not going to the discussion comment, was to say. And then we made comments about the actual,
Can I approach?
Yes.
And then Commissioner Burris made a
and
motion.
it should be at the other top. It should be in the discussion.
should,
But you still don't have,
No,
you
where-
still don't have that comments though.
where the comments are verbatim, but where do you think this should be?
You still need to have the comments.
We'll look through it again, sir.
If you would,
Yes.
remedy, resolve any concerns, and we'll vote on those minutes at our next meeting. We have no public comments for today.
No.
And that being the case, Mr. Hardy,
But here's, I want to show you what, I just thought what you just showed me, mine's different.
Oh.
Mine's different, so I don't have a new copy.
I didn't,
We didn't do a new copy. These are the original.
Mine said, you just showed me where it said agenda, but mine says you should be having presented a contract report, so we have two different copies, and I don't have a new copy.
it's the copy that I have.
let us remedy this matter.
Not where it needs to be.
Let us remedy this matter, and we will come back, we will
Where do you?
discuss at the next meeting.
Okay.
Add here, add the thing. Under the agenda. You make a motion to remove that one. And second. They went ahead, that's under the. Okay, and then here, we move that this be tabled, and that this be looked over more and discussed at a better agreement. Presented. No, don't. We don't.
We're gonna look at it again, but we're gonna discuss it at the next meeting.
Okay.
Yes, please. Yes, sir, Mr. Hardy. Good
Mr.
morning.
Chairman,
Good
good
morning,
morning.
sir. How are you? Mr.
How are you? I'm doing well, driving into Greene County, and I didn't even have to pick up my boss this morning.
How about that?
Do I need to turn this on?
Yeah, the green button.
Mine doesn't work.
Mine don't work. He's
Mr.
talking loud
All
now.
right, I want to talk, and I think you can do without it. Good morning, members of the board. My name is Chris Hardy. I am the Regional Director for Congressman Don Davis. Normally, I would take a couple of minutes here to speak about, as an introduction of my boss. But here in Greene County, Snow Hill, I think that's a foregone conclusion because you know him probably better than I do. So I'm going to skip that part of the introduction. That's quite all right with you, Mr. Chairman. I want to speak to you about, just for a second, about the district. The district is 19 counties, from Pasquotank, Elizabeth City up in the northeast, to Henderson and Vance County in the northwest, down here to Greene County in the south central. It is huge. It makes up 1/5 of our state geographically. And it's actually grown by counties in the last census. That's not necessarily a good thing. North Carolina has prospered in this last decade. As you saw, we grew a congressional district. We're always in the top list of growth and things of that nature. But we lost population here in the first district to the point that we had to bring in 4.5 more counties worth of people to get the district to a even keel with the rest of the congressional district across the country. So what do we do in this congressional district? We work for you. We work with the folks in northeastern North Carolina. I want to talk to you about a couple of things this morning. First of all is casework. That's what most people think of locally of a congressional district. So if you have folks that might have need of accessing a federal agency and they're having trouble doing that, perhaps they need to reach out to the State Department because they have issues with the passport. They're going to Cancun next week and they forgot to renew it. Or maybe they're having issues with the IRS. Not that we can help lower your taxes, but getting in the back door to talk to somebody is half the battle. Or maybe your VA benefits. Things of that nature are what we do and what we do well. We're very fortunate in our office to have a team, and our office is based in Greenville, as most of you know, that came across with us from Congressman Butterfield, so they're experienced and veterans in doing this. And if you have needs for access to someone to help with constituent services, casework of that nature, call our office in Greenville and they can help you. And again, they can't solve your problem, but the best they do mostly is put their thumb on the scale and open the back door so people can get to you. The next thing I want to talk to you a little bit about is, commendations, greetings, things of that nature. Perhaps you have somebody who has served as a register of deeds for 30 plus years or in that office. And that's a pretty big deal. And we do a recommendation, commendation for them, and we present that. We did that here in Greene County. Or maybe you've got someone that's ready to retire from city government or county government or a local business. Perhaps one of your citizens is 100 years old. We want to recognize them. Or those types of accommodations, greetings, outstanding students, we do that. Perhaps you have a special recognition, would you like a copy of the U.S. flag that's been flown over the U.S. Capitol? Our office handles that. All of those things can be accessed via our website, which I'll touch base on in just a second. That's how you start that process. You can also reach out to me as a regional director that's assigned to Greene County. Sometimes you've got a constituent that needs help, and they come to you, and maybe it's not a county issue, and you can help read on the flagpole, as your manager did recently with one of your constituents. Had a concern, and he called me, and we had a meeting. The third piece of that is constituent outreach. That's what I do. Again, there are 19 counties in the district, and the model traditionally has been a single district director covers it all. It's daggone near impossible to do that. So Congressman Davis, in his wisdom, decided to break our districts not quite into even thirds, but into three portions. Myself and Joya Bullock is our new regional director as of today. Split in most of the counties. Our district director has a couple that she also serves, including our home county of Halifax. So whether it's a nonprofit group, a county board like yourself, a town board like in the town of Snow Hill, or other civic groups that need someone to come and speak to them or have outreach for them, we can be the resource for you in that capacity. You know, there's also grants that we do, and we have access to the federal government grant process. Now, each spring that happens with constituent funding program, and we'll talk about that in just a second, and how that can help you locally as a local government. There's the Congressional Opportunities for Youth. What do Congressional Opportunities for Youth entail? Things like our art competition. We had a young man from Pitt County win the Congressional Art Competition, so his piece of art is hanging in the U.S. Capitol and will for the rest of this year. Military Academy applications. An app challenge. What is an app challenge? It's where students literally design an app as a competition nationwide, and those district winners get promoted and pushed into the appropriate tech sectors for funding and promotion. All of these things are, again, accessible via our website at dondavis.house.org. Finally, is constituent representation. That's the boss. He is on the House floor almost every day working for you. He is pushing legislation. He is promoting interest of local and small business, local governments. Congressman Davis wants to be your voice. He wants to listen to you each and every day to make sure that what you think you need, he can help bring from a federal perspective. What does that entail? How does he do that? It's through town halls. We go around the district. Again, this district is huge. Most congressional districts, when they do a series of town halls, might have one or might have two. Well, the first month in office, we had 3 in the same week. We have had 6 more citizens, total of 9. We're trying to get around the county and have one eventually in every county. Again, that's a big piece of it. We had a telephone town hall where people could call in and direct questions directly to the congressman and or just listen. We did that in June with almost 8,200 people participating across this district. That's huge. We hold listening sessions, sometimes in the field, where we may go out and listen to concerns of local groups, farmers, veterans. We met just last week with realtors to hear their concerns. But most importantly, we bring them to our office. Unlike a lot of congressional offices, which is just a small set of desks, we have a meeting room that's very large. In fact, it's larger than this space where we can hold those round tables and those listening sessions to listen to the parts of the people, because we need to hear that. Congressman Davis needs to hear that. He is on the road touring local schools, local businesses. He's been in Greene County here a lot recently with local schools and businesses, which I'll touch on. Of course, we also have a newsletter that goes out, and then there's community outreach, again, is what we as the regional team do. When it comes to legislating, the slide here speaks for itself. Congressman Davis has 2 committees he serves on. First and foremost is the Agriculture Committee. In North Carolina, the #1 economic driver in this state is agriculture. No matter what our good friends in the Triangle would tell you, no matter what the friends in Charlotte will tell you, it's not tech and it's not banking. Y'all know it as well as I do. It is still agriculture in the state, and that is amplified in Northeast North Carolina by tenfold. His other committee is the Armed Services Committee, and while there's only one base in the 1st District, that's the Coast Guard base in Elizabeth City, we are surrounded by them and have a lot of veterans in this district. And as you know, as an 8-year veteran of the Air Force himself, Armed Services is very important. He is a freshman, but is also the vice ranking member of the House Agriculture Committee. So there's a chairman and a ranking member, and there's a vice chairman and a vice ranking member. So that means he's the number 4 guy on the Ag Committee as a freshman. He brings a lot of weight from Northeast North Carolina to that table. He's introduced 8 pieces of legislation, co-sponsored over 150 other ones. He's led 21 pieces of legislation on the floor. And again, for a freshman member of Congress, especially in the minority party, that's a pretty big deal. And speaking of the minority party, he is one of the most bipartisan, and we think it makes him more effective, members of Congress. He's got a ranking of 85% of walking across the aisle, because it's not just about what the Democrats want or what the Republicans want. It's what the people need, and especially the people here in the 1st Congressional District. Speaking to agriculture, when he's out in the field, the single biggest thing he hears that people complain about, surprisingly, is not an ag issue, or at least not according to the Congress. It's labor. It's farm labor and how that's worked. Surprisingly, that doesn't fall under the auspices of the Ag Committee. So he helped put together a bipartisan working group on agricultural labor so that he can look at the labor issues that affect agriculture, and that affects each and every one of us one way or another in the livelihood or what we pay at the grocery store, because labor is such a big part of that. And he's also a member of the House Armed Services Quality on Life panel. He's I mentioned earlier community project funding. That changes each year with the majority party setting the rules on how that is done. This year, the majority party said that each member of Congress can have up to 15 projects move forward. So we went out and we solicited applications, and we thought we'd get 40 or 50 of them, and we'd whittle them down to 15, and the congressman would submit those through the application and appropriations process. Folks, we had over 95 applications from 19 counties, and we got to do 15 of them. As you can do the math as well as I can, 15 is not even 1 per county. It was a tough decision in what Congressman Davis advocated for. And he had applied a little bit of political sense to that and looked at what this majority favors. So many of the applications he put forward tend to be things in emergency services, law enforcement, fire, EMS, or bricks and mortar infrastructure, because we believe they would have the best ideas of passing because of this Congress. But I want to quote a few things from our ledge team about that process. That Congress has set the stage for a very chaotic September, with the House and Senate on a collision course over the appropriations and risk a partial government shutdown, and that's already been assessed. Out of the 12 annual appropriation bills that Congress has to pass every year, the House so far has only passed 1. The VA funding bill. Because these 12 bills have yet to pass, the members of the districts will probably be mid-September, and that's simply not enough time to get all the bills passed and negotiated before the end of the fiscal year, which happens September 30th. That's less than 24 days from now. There will likely be consideration of continuing resolution, which means a continuation of the current funding levels not yet approved in next year's appropriations, which contain a community project funding request. What that means is we don't know exactly where those requests land. Finally, with all that said, the projects are still in the respective committees. The reporting of the appropriation bill, we can't guarantee they will pass this year one way or another because of the political will to decrease the overall funding levels. New majority, new rules, and this is what we're dealing with. So when the congressman is in a district, he stops at small businesses. And one of the small businesses he was at just recently this summer was Precision Graphics right here in Snow Hill. He toured the facility, talked at length with Tim, their owner, and got a good idea of what they do and how that small business is done. I think you were with us that day, Commissioner Burgess. But he carries that one step further. He likes to promote those local things to the House floor. So he took pictures from that day and went to the floor of the House and spoke to it. Spoke to the needs and what they're doing right here in Snow Hill to promote that business. And not just to promote it and make it a better business, but to promote it talking about small businesses and how they're pulling in people from all counties around us. What he's doing and what was a vacant building and has turned it into that little mini manufacturing facility that ships almost globally. And then we carry that one step further, in addition to him coming and seeing and speaking, taking that into the House floor But then once it's enshrined in the congressional record forever, we get a copy of that and we bring it back to that local business for presentation. And we have done that. Congressman Davis brings all pieces of that together. You know, we talked about the website, and I want to draw your attention to it. dondavis.house.gov. Almost everything you will need starts right there, from how to reach out to the congressman, how to do an app challenge, how to get a flag request, how to get tickets to the White House. And let me tell you through personal experience, when I tried to go this summer with my children, lead a lot of lead time. It doesn't happen in a hurry. Because not only does it have to go through channels in the House, it also has to go through channels in the White House. And federal government doesn't move quickly. So please take a few minutes when you have a chance to look at our website at dondavis.house.gov. You know, I am not the most tech savvy person, but my boss is. He is tweeting on the road just as fast as we can get pictures to him. Sometimes our staff does it, and he says, no, we want it this way. He is very hands-on with his social media, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And to that end, you know, he's at Rep. Don Davis at each of the three of those affiliates who are tech savvy. From our rural farms to our bustling towns, his efforts in fighting for farmers and cutting red tape for our servicemen and our veterans, and working to strengthen our local economies are all that matters to him at the end of the day. He wants to listen to you and be your voice and your advocate in Washington. So please go to his social media channels and see some of the great work. But one of the things I saw recently on Facebook, he did his own video of this same little presentation. And I'm going to take just a second, if you'll allow me. It's about 2 minutes long, to play it for you here. Yeah, Bob. Sorry. I made an assumption I shouldn't have.
I think we do have volume. I'm just going to turn it up.
Hi, Eastern North
Thank you.
Carolina. I'm Congressman Don Davis, proudly representing North Carolina's 1st Congressional District. Today, I'm taking a moment to reflect on our incredible journey together in Washington, D.C. So buckle up as we travel over the past 6 months in Congress. First and foremost, I've learned that the power of listening is the keystone for effective representation. By actively listening to your concerns and ideas, we can work together to create real change. It's all about building a strong community because of you, the people of Eastern North Carolina. You are the life of this district. Now, let's talk about an idea that might seem a little old-fashioned: bipartisanship. Building bridges across party lines is like adding rocket fuel to our legislative goals. By working together, we can accomplish meaningful things that reflect the shared values of our constituents. Who said politics can't be fun? Next up, our incredible active duty service members, veterans, and their families. These brave men and women have been willing to give up everything to protect our freedom. Our heroes. It's our duty to advocate for them to ensure they receive every care and benefit they rightly deserve. Let's salute their service and support them every step of the way. Now, picture this: agriculture and educational development. That packs a mean punch. Our district is blessed to have the resources to help feed and clothe America and beyond. By investing in economic growth, improving infrastructure such as broadband and housing, and adequately funding education, we can unleash the true potential of our communities and live the American dream, yes, down east. Education is one factor in creating a bright future, and we'll work tirelessly to provide quality educational opportunities for all. To the farmers, producers, growers, workers, and residents across Eastern North Carolina, get ready to shine. I'm working to ensure that this year's Farm Bill is bipartisan and uplifts us all. Last, but definitely not least, is accessible health care. It's not just a dream, it's a goal we can achieve together, ensuring affordable and accessible health care for every resident across North Carolina's 1st Congressional District is a top priority, because when it comes to our well-being, there's no compromise. So, there you have it. The road we've traveled, the places we've been over the past 6 months in Congress. They will continue to guide me as we drive forward. I'm here to serve you, to listen to your ideas, and to be your voice and champion in Congress. Let's keep engaging, collaborating, communicating, and making positive changes to ensure the next generation can live the American dream down east. Take care.
You know, no one says it better than the boss himself. And so we've been in office now for about 8 months. That was done over the summer. And we started doing these updates in mid-August. I went on vacation during the typical meeting time, and I got back just in time for the hurricane here. But I do want to make sure that we're available to you. I'll entertain questions if it's appropriate, Mr. Chairman. I have contact information I have to leave with your manager to share with all of you. Our office via the website or my cell phone number directly is on that card. And as Kyle will tell you, I answer it pretty promptly, especially when I know it's coming from our local elected officials. Please let us know what we can do to help serve you and be a voice for Greene County moving forward. Questions?
Just a comment.
Yes, sir.
Well, it may be a question and a comment, maybe both. But sort of what struck home to me, we are an agricultural community.
Yes, sir.
And our agricultural leaders are burdened with a problem that is a lack of broadband in this rural, low-wealth county. Are there federal funds available to assist in getting broadband in a low-wealth county like Greene?
The short answer to the question is yes.
How?
That's a much longer answer. Broadband is run through USDA, which is through the Agriculture Committee. And there are different granting opportunities that are available. Specifically, I can't name them to you. I'm more than happy to look into it. If it's okay, I'll get back with your manager. The challenge we run into is broadband, as you know, unless you live in Wilson County, is run by private companies. And no one wants to be holding that last piece of connection. And that's a challenge for all of us. Our office is in Greenville, clearly the economic driver of our region. Yet my mother, who lives 6 miles from our office, 6 miles down the county home road, if you're familiar with the county,
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't take my boys there during COVID because she didn't have high-speed internet to do their homework. So I know it's not just in rural Greene County. It's not just in rural Gates County, which is where I'm heading to next.
Right.
It's everywhere, unless you're in downtown Greenville, they have their dead spots. But there are resources. They're looking at doing that. They're looking at a combination of packages that may or may not be just through a line. You know, most every one of us has one of these in our pocket somewhere. And it may be through Wi-Fi, it may be through satellite, but we have to find better ways of getting that. The Congressman is very aware of that, especially with precision agriculture and the need for it to make farming more effective. And he's trying to look at ways to make those resources available. But the short answer to the question is yes, through USDA, there are resources and grants available for infrastructure. Specifics, I don't know them off the top of my head.
Well, when I say Greene County, I guess I was thinking about the 85 rural counties in North Carolina, for that matter. But what concerns us sitting right here is our constituents in Greene County.
Yes, sir.
And we're no different from any other county.
Yes, sir.
We know that. No other county is different from us, basically. But there's a great need out there, and it inhibits progress sometimes when you don't have broadband. Just like you said, your kids couldn't go to your mother's during the COVID deal. That's very real. It's very, very real, and that's probably the most major concern I have about our county. Technology-wise, it's the lack of broadband in the outreaching areas.
If I could
And
share,
Senator Davis knows that, or Congressman Davis now.
Well, I was going to go back to the state also, so it's a great segue. I do work for a member of Congress, so that makes me a federal employee.
Right.
But just a week ago, I was with the congressman at a rural summit that was hosted actually by the USDA. Reggie Spate was the coordinator of it. It was over in Wilson County. And they had various federal agency heads there, but there's also some state agency heads there.
Yeah.
And the newest department in state government that's officially at cabinet level is the Department of Information Technology, DIT. And they were there on site, and they have been issued, it's federal money, but it runs through the state, something like $500 million. They're trying to figure out how to get those resources in the field to get those connections. So while I direct you first to USDA, I would also direct you to NCDIT for those resources because they are available. I can't speak for them. I'm just repeating what was said at that conference, but I do know that it is available for resources.
Absolutely.
Any other questions, Mr. Chairman, or Member Ford?
I got one question.
Mr. Shackle.
You don't hear much about it, but it's out there, possibly a government shutdown. And I know you mentioned a lot about bipartisan, and I hope that works for all of us. But a little bit about what's out there, if you can, expound on that a little bit.
Yes, sir. We'll jump right back. There we go. The House and the Senate are in a collision course to get things passed, and they likely will not happen by September 30th. The amount of bills that have to pass to get a budget by the end of this month, just practicality, going through the committee process and all that has to happen. You just can't get 135 people in the room and everybody vote on it. That's the way I was taught civics, in grade school, but that's not the reality of what happens in the U.S. Congress. So we are preparing for that possibility. The White House is looking forward to bringing types of continuing resolutions. We'll see what that happens. But right now, we're going to wait and see. But it's a very, very real possibility. Personally, I would tell you it's a probability. And what that means is that they'll have to determine what is considered essential. Those things get moving forward. Things that are not considered essential will be paused. Not the answer you want to hear, but that's the answer the best I can give it to you.
Well, I mean, truth of the life, so.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. We appreciate you. Thank you for all that you do for Greene County.
You do our best.
Keep Don straight the best you can. So keep Don straight the best you can.
You've known my boss for how long?
A long time.
Thank you.
Let me give you
Thank you. Have a safe trip to
Thank you,
Dix
sir.
County.
Yes, sir. Drive careful.
Rich Moore.
I appreciate it. And what I've got for you, this is kind of a follow-up after some discussions with the county manager. As you're probably aware, Greene County was designated as a distressed unit of government, by the state. And certainly that designation was based on a lot of criteria that you have no control over, which is primarily your, the size, of your population base and your water and sewer customers and things like that. It's not a reflection of your financial stability or on how y'all manage your general government. But that designation from the state carried with it some specific criteria that were imposed on you and really every unit of government that carried that same distress designation. And so by the assignment of that classification, you're required to conduct an asset assessment and a rate study. You are required to participate in some training and educational programs that are approved by the State Water Infrastructure Authority. That scope and training varies from meeting to meeting, but you are required to attend that. And in addition, you're required to develop an action plan that takes into consideration your short-term and long-term plan for infrastructure repair, maintenance, and management, a long-term continuing education program for the governing board as it relates to looking out for your water and sanitary sewer infrastructure assets, and the old catch-all, anything else that the local government commission thinks that you need to do. Each of these activities represents effort and cost, but even though you were designated distressed, you weren't given any money to address the issues that the state imposed on you. So the state allocates money through the Division of Water Infrastructure, what they call the Asset Inventory and Assessment Program. And this is an opportunity for Greene County to apply for grant funds to address those issues that you're required to perform, having that designation of being distressed. Certainly it helps that you have that designation in terms of priority ranking, but what we are trying to do is to apply for grant funds to perform the activities that the state has imposed on you. This is a $150,000 grant. The applications are due October 2nd. We would anticipate that they would be awarded probably in February, and you'd be required to accomplish those activities within a 3-year time period. So we wanted to bring this opportunity to y'all for consideration. What we've got in your package is a resolution that's formatted as the Division of Water Infrastructure requires to meet all of their programs, but specifically asking consideration for the authorization to apply for asset inventory and assessment grant with the Division of Water Infrastructure to address your water system asset needs. So that's a quick summary, and I'd be glad to answer any questions.
How long before we know where we got there?
It'll be probably February.
February. Move to approve, Mr. Chair.
Second that.
Have a motion and a second to approve the submission of the asset inventory mapping grant proposal. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion signify so by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The motion is carried unanimously.
Much obliged,
Thank you.
and we may need some help after, depending on what happens tomorrow too. Hopefully we'll have some more good news tomorrow.
Good deal.
Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Mr. Cash.
Sorry, before you start, I just want to say, you told me for a loop over here. This new program.
Yeah, we had to try a new program today for you, so we'll see how it goes.
I got to keep my eyes right on this.
We'll have to play with it since the other program, Commissioner Burris is talking about the caption software. The caption software we used is expiring, so we had to look for a new solution for him. So we're trying out a new solution today to see how it works. And good morning, everybody. I'm here today to talk about a possible Brownfield Coalition grant for EPA. So I've been working with Lenoir and Wayne counties of looking at possibly applying for a coalition grant. So it would be Lenoir, Greene, and Wayne counties would apply for up to $2 million EPA Brownfield grant. So what brownfields are properties either existing currently or maybe we don't know about, but are brownfields where they have hazardous materials spilled or hazardous materials in the ground or so forth that prevent that property from being sold or acquired later down the way. So this is a great funding opportunity to maybe if we have a property that we identify that we could maybe the county would possibly purchase that property from the owner with some correct legal work, try to mitigate that brownfield so a new property owner can buy it. So a good example would be if you had a major warehouse, maybe industrial site here that had a spill. They may be spilling things out the back that they weren't supposed to be. They shut down, they close, where the property's vacant. You have a potential buyer, they go do their phase 1 assessments, they find the issue. Well, then they do their phase 2 assessments, and then they are told that they may have a 30-year cleanup on their hands. Well, guess what? Nowadays, are looking to leave or not buy that property because now they've got to take on this liability. So the funding from the EPA would help with that if we find it property that way or maybe have properties. So all I'm asking commissioners is to approve us to get into this coalition to apply for the funding.
How much did you say it was?
It's up to $2 million.
That's for all three counties?
Yes, sir.
Move to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Have a motion to approve, do I have a second?
I say.
Have a motion and a second, any further discussion?
How long, once we apply for it, how long do you think before we hear something back?
The deadline is October. I would assume it'd probably be February, March next year before we hear anything back.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And a friendly reminder, tomorrow is H&T's ribbon cutting at their headquarters on Harper Road. So I look forward to seeing you all there at 10 a.m. tomorrow. The public is welcome to attend.
Have a motion and a second, no further discussion. Those in favor of the motion signify so by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, the motion's carried. And Mr. Cash, I do have a commitment elsewhere tomorrow morning, can't make it. Please pass my regrets. Okay, Mr. County Manager.
Thank you, sir. Let's see. With the removal of Spades Bridge, I don't have any items for action. I do have items for information and some technical difficulties. But let's see. The item I'd like to discuss or talk about with you is the drug-free workplace and drug and alcohol testing policy. We are working through different policies in the county to improve, update, etc. Our policies and procedures, and drug and alcohol testing in a drug-free workplace is one of them. This policy clearly outlines the county's expectations of employees. It outlines the responsibilities of all pieces of management, department heads, supervisors, etc., and also outlines the expectations and responsibilities of the employee. It is a rather thick policy. I would like the opportunity for us to review it for a time and bring it back for approval if everyone's needs have been met. Yes, sir.
Can I make one comment about this policy?
Please.
You know what it says? I think it's well written and well intended. But I have an issue with part B, I guess it's 3. And it's talking about supervisors must notify human resources and employee being referred must be escorted to the test facility within 2 hours by a supervisor or another. I think that's a well written policy. However, I want to question if the supervisor is the one that accusing you of potentially abusing of the drug. Do you want this supervisor to be the one transferring to the testing facility? So I think we may need to look at that a little bit because I think it kind of puts our supervisors head in danger to be first accusing somebody of potentially abusing the drug and then having to drive to the testing facility. Everything else I'm fine with.
Well, thank you. And we'll absolutely look at that as maybe there's a better way. We'll take a look at that. Thank you.
That's the only thing that's good at.
Thank you. But like I said, it is not for a vote today by any means. I would like everyone to read it in as much detail as Commissioner Burris has. And I want everyone to know what we're putting in place and what people will be held accountable to. Are there any questions that I can answer for you? Okay. If there are none?
Ms. Gay?
Yes.
If you read it.
Yes, this has gone through a lot of review. Okay. The last thing I have for you is just to ask the chairman to set a public hearing for the transportation department, the 5311 grant.
I will declare that we will set a public hearing for our next meeting, which will be September the 18th, 7 o'clock, for the transportation grant, 5311 transportation grant.
Thank you, sir. That's all I have.
Madam County Attorney,
No comment.
we'd like to make just as far as Commissioner reports and recommendations, we'd like to just emphasize one more time, H&T tomorrow, Harper Road, 10 o'clock. quite another great opportunity in Greene County. I also would like to announce that the Masonic Lodge here in Snow Hill, Radiance Lodge 132, we're going to hold a breakfast, first responder appreciation breakfast Saturday morning. All first responders are invited to attend, and that will be from 7 to 9 on Saturday morning at the Masonic Lodge here in Snow Hill. And with that in mind also, on the same date, our American Legion Post 94 has a barbecue chicken lunch that day as one of their fundraisers. And lastly, we'd like to mention this upcoming Ormansville Church is having their fall festival, their Harvest Festival, on September the 16th. They will also be having some barbecue chicken for lunch that day, as well as their Harvest Festival in general. So a lot of things as to beginning to get into the fall of the year. It's post Labor Day, and a lot of fall festivals, a lot of things going on in Greene County this fall as normal. Any other commissioner reports and recommendations?
I got one. I originally having comments from Mr. Harrison emailed me over the weekend asking me to read something. It says Greene County Senior Citizen Park Festival has Saturday, 16th August. And it will start at 7 a.m. with a yard sale, and at 2 o'clock have an open house. Then at 3 o'clock they're going to have this cow pie thing. I don't want to do a demonstration. The tickets are $10. They be picking up at the service zone as well.
Are you familiar with that?
I understand the gist of it.
Okay. It's always a funny event, I suppose, especially for the cow, I guess. But anyhow, any other commissioner comments or recommendations?
Move to go in closed session, Mr. Chairman, for personnel reasons.
Have a motion to go into closed session for purchase of personnel. Have a second. Any further discussion on that? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The motion is carried. We are going into closed session. see if anyone is waiting to come in.
I won't be if I get too loud when I talk.
You're all right.
You are
You've been fine, Derek.
I just say-
You've done well.
Anyone coming in? We're back in regular session.
Move to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to adjourn. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion signify so by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, the motion is carried unanimously.
Thank y'all.